Welcome to Talk Treatises.
Glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, today we are taking a deep dive into a classic work of epistemology.
Which is just a fancy word for the branch of philosophy dealing with knowledge.
Right. Knowledge, belief, and truth. What it means to actually know something. And we're not just reading a book today. We are essentially stepping into a boxing ring.
It certainly felt like a boxing ring for the author.
Oh, for sure. We are looking at a stack of papers and essays that, well, when they were first published, they didn't just cause a mild stir. They absolutely enraged the academic establishment.
People were furious.
I mean, they were incredibly mad. We're talking about the American philosopher William James and his seminal controversial work, The Meaning of Truth.
It's a fascinating text because it is essentially a sequel or, perhaps more of a rebuttal.
A defense mechanism almost.
Exactly. James had published his ideas on pragmatism a few years earlier, and the backlash was so severe, so intense and so personal, that he felt compelled to write this follow-up.
He had to clear his name.
He needed to clarify, defend, and really double down on his revolutionary definition of truth.
And before we get into the weeds of this deep dive, we have to set the stage for you. Because when we say the word truth in casual conversation,
we usually think of something very solid.
Right, like the sky is blue.
Right.
That's true. It sits there being true, whether you look at it or not.
It's treated as a property of the universe, like mass or gravity.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a fact.
And that is the traditional view. For centuries, philosophers, particularly the rationalists and the idealists of the time, viewed truth with a capital T as this static, absolute property.
A fixed thing.
Right. It was seen as a relation where an idea in your head somehow miraculously copied reality or agreed with a reality out there.
It was a static state of being.
The truth was frozen in the amber of the cosmos, basically.
And then James comes along and says, well, he basically says, no, that's not it at all.
Right. James argues that truth isn't a stagnant property that sits inside an idea, like a pit inside a peach. He argues that truth is something that happens to an idea. It's an event. It's a process.
That is the hook right there. Truth happens.
Yes.
It sounds almost active,
Yeah.
Like a verb, like I'm truthing right now.
It is entirely active for him. In his view, an idea is made true by events. It becomes true through a process of verification.
Which is a huge shift.
Massive shift from truth as a static copy to truth as a dynamic process. And that is what we're going to unpack today.
It's basically a battle between the intellectualists and the pragmatists.
Right. The intellectualists wanted truth to be this pure, abstract thing up in the upper air of logic.
And the pragmatists.
Pragmatists like James wanted to drag philosophy down into the street, into the dirt and the traffic of real, concrete human experience.
I love that, the idea of philosophy getting its hands dirty. But let's rewind a bit to the era to give you some context.
Sure.
We're in the late 19th, early 20th century.
Right.
What was the vibe back then? Who exactly is James fighting against in this text?
We are looking at the absolute dominance of something called absolute idealism.
Which sounds incredibly fancy.
And slightly intimidating, yeah. It was the heavyweight champion of philosophy at the time. The prevailing view was that the universe was this perfectly rational, interconnected whole.
The absolute.
Right. Everything was already there. And human knowledge was this mysterious act where the mind would perform what James calls a saltatory act.
A saltatory act.
Yes.
That sounds like something a frog does.
It basically is. It comes from the Latin for jumping.
Oh, okay.
The idea was that the mind literally jumps across a chasm to grasp reality. You have the thought in your head, you have the object out there in the world, and somehow, instantly, the mind bridges that gap and knows the object.
It's like that.
Just like that. It was seen as this transcendental miracle.
So there's no travel time, no processing.
Yeah.
I just look at a coffee cup on my desk and my mind is instantly fused with the cup's essence.
Precisely. And James thought that was absolute nonsense.
He wasn't buying the magic jump.
Not at all. He was part of a movement called radical empiricism. He wanted to demystify this whole process.
Bring it down to earth.
Exactly. He wanted to say, look, there is no magic jump. If you want to know the cup, you have to physically pick it up. If you want to know the tiger, you have to go to India.
There's a path.
There's a path. There's a physical, experiential process.
Okay, so he wanted to bring philosophy down from the upper air of logic to the street level of experience. But wait, if he's saying we have to go to the tiger,
Yeah.
is he saying the tiger isn't real until I see it? Because that sounds a lot like solipsism. If a tree falls in the forest and I'm not there to hear it, It doesn't exist.
And that is exactly what his critics accused him of.
Yeah.
They screamed from the rooftops that he was denying objective reality.
So was he.
No, he spends half the book saying, no, I am not denying the tiger.
Okay, good for the tiger.
Right. He isn't saying the tiger doesn't exist physically. He is asking a totally different question. What does it mean for us to say, we know the tiger exists? What is the structure of that knowledge?
So it's about the relationship between the knower and the known, not just the physical existence of the known thing itself.
Correct. And to define that relationship, he uses a phrase that probably got him into more trouble than anything else he ever wrote.
I think I know what's coming.
Cash value.
Oh boy. Yes, cash value. It sounds so, I don't know, transactional.
Very.
Like he's turning truth into a cheap commodity. How much is that fact in the window?
That's exactly how his critics read it. They were appalled. They thought he was saying, if it makes money, it's true.
Or like, if it helps me get rich, it's a true statement.
Exactly. But James meant cash value in purely experiential terms. Think about a bank check.
Okay, I have a check in my hand. It's a piece of paper. It's not actual money.
Right. It's a promise of money. A check has truth only if you can walk down to the bank and exchange it for actual cash.
Physical coins and bills.
Right. If the bank bounces it, the check is false.
So an idea in our head is like a check.
Yes. The cash value is the moment you cash it in. The moment you trade the abstract idea of a tiger for the concrete experience of a tiger.
Well, wait a minute. We carry checks around for days without cashing them.
We do.
We just assume they're good. I don't run to the bank every time someone hands me a piece of paper.
And that is exactly what James calls the credit system of truth.
The credit system.
Yeah. We live our lives on credit. You believe the floor will hold you up when you stand on it, but you haven't tested every single square inch of it today.
Right. I'm trading on the assumption that the floor check will clear if I need to stand there.
Exactly. So truth isn't just the event of verification itself.
It's the potential for the event.
It's both. The traditional rationalists wanted truth to be a gold bar locked in a vault that acts as an eternal standard.
Untouchable.
Untouchable. James says, no, truth is the liquidity. It's the flow. It's the ability to convert the idea into the experience.
That brings us to this core definition he gives in the text. He says, true ideas are those that we can assimilate, validate, corroborate, and verify.
And false ideas are those that we cannot.
He actually says something really specific here. The true is only the expedient in the way of our thinking, just as the right is only the expedient in the way of our behavior.
Yes.
But that word expedient, that's another heavily loaded word.
It definitely is.
It sounds like taking a shortcut. Like, it's expedient for me to lie right now so I don't get in trouble.
In common parlance, yes, it has that negative connotation, but James means it in the sense of facilitating our interaction with reality.
So making things work smoothly.
Right. An idea is true if it helps us navigate the world without frustration. If an idea leads you from point A to point B successfully, it is true in the pragmatic sense. Its validity is the process of its validation.
Oh, I see what you did there. Validity is validation.
Yeah.
It's the active process of making it valid.
James loves that kind of wordplay because it emphasizes the active nature of truth. It's not a static noun, it's a verbal noun.
A doing word.
Exactly. But this brings us to a really big problem that the traditionalists had with him.
The agreement problem.
The agreement problem, yes. Because the old guard said, truth is simply agreement with reality.
Which sounds totally reasonable to most people. My idea of the coffee cup agrees with the physical coffee cup.
Sure. If you have a mental picture of a red cup and the actual cup on the desk is red, they agree. They match.
Right. They look the same.
But do they really? Does your mental image of a tiger actually look like a tiger?
Well,
can your mental image bite you? Does it have physical fur? Does it smell like a wild animal?
no. It's a bunch of neurons firing in my brain. It's an electrical thought.
Exactly. So in what sense does a firing neuron physically copy a biological beast in the jungle?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So James argues that agreement doesn't mean copying at all.
What does it mean then?
It means guidance. To agree with reality means to be guided straight up to it or into its surroundings. It means the idea puts you into a working touch with the object.
So the idea is like a map.
Yes, a perfect analogy.
Because a map doesn't look like the actual land. It's flat paper and ink. But it agrees with the land because if I follow the lines on the paper, I don't accidentally walk off a cliff.
Precisely. The map is true because it works. If the map led you off a cliff, it would be a false map.
The truth is in the leading.
The truth is in the leading. And this confusion between copying reality and leading to reality is what caused so many of the philosophical arguments of his day.
Which brings us to the squirrel.
Yes, the famous squirrel analogy. James uses this funny little story to illustrate how we get hung up on these rigid definitions.
This story always drives me crazy when I try to visualize it. Can we just walk through it slowly?
Let's do it. It's a classic example of a pragmatic solution to a metaphysical dispute. So imagine a squirrel is clinging to one side of a tree trunk.
Okay, I'm visualizing a big oak tree. Squirrel on one side.
And a man is standing on the other side of the tree.
Okay, I'm the man. I'm looking at the bark. I know the squirrel is on the backside.
Right. Now, you want to get a look at the squirrel, so you take a step to your right to move around the tree.
Okay, I step right.
But the squirrel is fast. As you move to the right, the squirrel scampers to his right as well.
So he stays on the opposite side.
Exactly. He keeps the tree trunk exactly between you and him.
So we are basically slowly circling this tree. I'm chasing him, but the wood is always blocking my view.
You go all the way around the tree, a full 360 degrees, and you return to your starting point.
And the squirrel.
The squirrel has also gone 360 degrees. You never saw the squirrel.
Okay. Extremely frustrating afternoon for me, but I get the geometry of the situation.
Now, here is the philosophical question that James poses to his friends. Did the man go around the squirrel?
Well, I mean, physically, I encompassed the space that the squirrel was occupying. I was north of him, then east of him, south of him, west of him. So yeah, I went around him.
But think about the squirrel's perspective. The squirrel's belly was always facing the tree trunk, and you were always looking at the tree trunk. The squirrel was always facing you. You never saw his back. You never saw his tail from behind. Usually to go around someone means to go behind them.
So no, I didn't go around him.
James says, stop fighting.
Wait, what?
He says the answer is that it depends entirely on your practical definition of the word around.
So it's just a word game.
Essentially, yes. If around means occupying the compass points relative to the object, then yes, absolutely, you went around.
Okay.
But if around means being first in front, then on the right, then behind, then on the left of the creature.
Then no, I didn't, because I was always in front of them.
Exactly. So the answer is, it depends on what you mean. The dispute isn't about the physical facts. Everyone standing in the forest watching you would agree on who moved where.
The facts are settled.
The facts are settled. The dispute is purely verbal. It's an argument over the definition of a word.
And James thinks this is what philosophers do all day.
He says most philosophical problems are just like the squirrel. We totally agree on the facts of the world, but we fight over the abstract words.
He really wants us to look at the practical consequences of our ideas.
Yes. If two different theories result in the exact same practical experience, they mean the exact same thing.
There is no difference that makes no difference.
That is the absolute core of the pragmatic method. If there is no practical difference in the outcome, there is no difference in the truth of the matter.
Let's dive deeper into this idea of verification, because James has this great metaphor about the tigers in India. We touched on the tiger earlier, but let's really break this specific example down from the text.
Yeah, this is one of his most vivid illustrations. He uses it to show the difference between intuitive knowledge and representative knowledge.
Okay, set the scene for me.
We are sitting here in the studio. We both believe right now that there are tigers in India.
I firmly believe that. I haven't checked the news today, but I'm pretty sure they are still there.
Right. Now, James would say this knowledge you have right now sitting in this chair is representative or symbolic knowledge.
Because I'm not seeing them.
Right. You aren't seeing the tigers. You're just pointing your mind towards them.
Like I'm mentally pointing at a globe.
Exactly. Now, compare that mental pointing to a person who is actually standing in the jungle, seeing the tiger face to face.
Hearing it roar.
Yes. That is intuitive knowledge. The object is right there in their immediate experience.
So one is a belief held at a distance. The other is a direct, present experience.
The rationalists would say that when you, sitting in the studio, think of the tiger, your mind performs that magic saltatory jump we talked about.
It leaps across the oceans and touches the pure essence of the tiger.
Right. James says, no, that's ridiculous. He says, your thought is just the starting point of a path.
A path.
Yes, he called it ambulation.
Which means walking.
Walking, yes. Knowledge isn't a magical jump, it's a walk. Your belief that tigers are in India is true because, and only because, if we really wanted to, we could get up, get on a plane, fly to India, hire a guide, trek into the jungle, and eventually we would be face to face with the tiger.
The thought leads directly to the sensation.
Precisely. The truth of the thought is actually a prediction.
It's a set of instructions. It's saying, if you do X, Y, and Z, you will eventually see a tiger.
Yes. Verification is the physical process of walking that path. Now, here is the catch that James points out.
Okay.
We rarely actually do the walking.
Yeah, I mean, I am certainly not going to India right now just to check if my thought is true.
And you don't have to. James says most of our knowledge is virtual.
Virtual knowledge.
We bank on the fact that we could verify it if we needed to. The belief works perfectly fine without immediate verification because nothing in our daily life contradicts it.
This goes back to the credit system.
Exactly. We live on that credit system. We accept the truth of the tigers because we trust the biology books, we trust the wildlife documentaries, and we trust that the path could literally be walked.
Which is a huge relief, honestly. If I had to personally verify every single fact I know, that the Earth is round, that electrons exist, that Julius Caesar is dead, I'd never get anything done. I'd just be verifying things all day.
And that is James's exact point. The rationalists demand this absolute, instantaneous, perfect connection for something to be considered true. James says, look at how human beings actually live.
We live on credit.
We live on credit. Truth is a potential. It's a pointing towards something that could eventually be fulfilled.
But, and this is a big, but speaking of things that are very hard or maybe impossible to physically verify, let's talk about God. Or rather, let's talk about the thought experiment he uses called the automatic sweetheart.
Ah, yes, the automatic sweetheart. This is where things get a little spooky in the text.
Spooky is a good word for it.
He uses this thought experiment to discuss the cash value of spiritual beliefs and also the philosophical problem of other minds.
It's basically Stepford Wives, right? But written 60 years before the movie.
It really is. James asks us to imagine a soulless body that is absolutely indistinguishable from a spiritually animated maiden.
Let's paint the picture for you. You meet a woman. She laughs at your jokes.
She talks to you about philosophy.
She nurses you when you're sick. She treats you with perfect kindness and affection.
Right. Physically, in every observable way, she is identical to a loving human partner. All the sensible facts are exactly the same. But James asks, suppose you somehow knew for a fact that she was an automaton.
A machine.
A machine. She has no internal soul, no subjective consciousness. She's just a complex arrangement of wires and springs acting out a pre-written program.
But I can't physically tell the difference just by looking at her.
You cannot see the difference, but you know it internally. James asks, would you regard her as a full equivalent to a real human? Would you feel the same way about her?
No. Absolutely not. It would be terrifying. I'd be sitting alone in a room with a machine that's just mimicking love.
Exactly. Even though all the physical facts are identical, the pragmatic difference in your life is huge.
Because of the internal experience?
Yes. The difference lies in the promise of the future, the feeling of a genuine, sympathetic connection. James uses this spooky robot analogy to argue for the pragmatic validity of the God hypothesis.
How so? Connect the robot wife to the idea of God for me.
He argues that a totally godless universe, driven only by blind physical laws, might look exactly the same as a theistic universe created by a loving God.
The sun still rises in both universes.
Gravity still works. Materialism explains the movement of the atoms just fine.
Right.
But the feeling of living inside those universes is profoundly different.
Like the difference between living with a real loving partner and living with a cold robot.
Yes. James says the belief in God provides what he calls a moral holiday.
A moral holiday? That's a fascinating phrase.
It's a sense that the universe is ultimately sympathetic, that there is a permanent rationality behind the chaos of things. If you believe the universe has a soul, that it isn't just dead, grinding matter, it changes how you act.
It changes your resilience.
It changes your hope.
So even if you can't verify God by walking to India like you can verify the tiger, the belief still has cash value because of how it practically makes you feel and act in your daily life.
Yes. For James, emotional and moral satisfactions are a valid part of the truth process. If a belief genuinely helps you navigate life, gives you hope, and makes the world seem rational, that is a form of verification.
Now that is where he gets into deep trouble, isn't it?
Oh, massive trouble.
That's where people listen to him and say, oh, so if I believe in Santa Claus and it makes me feel warm and happy inside, then Santa Claus is a true fact.
That is the most common surface-level criticism of pragmatism. Bertrand Russell pounded the table on this exact point.
How does James counter the Santa Claus argument?
James would say, does the belief in Santa Claus really work in the long run?
Well, eventually you wake up and catch your parents putting the gifts under the tree.
Exactly. The belief clashes with other stubborn realities. It fails the ultimate verification test. James isn't saying anything goes.
It's not just wishful thinking.
No, he's saying truth must be consistent with all of our experience. Sensory experience, intellectual consistency, and emotional satisfaction.
So if believing in Santa makes you happy, but it physically contradicts the fact that you saw your dad in the red suit, the truth of Santa collapses.
Right. It has to fit the whole picture of reality.
Okay, this idea that we verify truth, that truth is something we actively process, leads us to something even bigger in the book. If truth is something we verify, it starts to sound almost like we are making it up.
This is the major pivot to humanism in his philosophy, and it is one of the most radical, paradigm-shifting parts of the text.
James, along with other thinkers like F.C.S. Schiller and John Dewey, really pushed this.
They did. The basic idea is simple but profound. We don't just find truth lying around on the ground like hidden Easter eggs.
We help create it.
We help create it. He uses the stars as an example here, the Big Dipper specifically.
Let's walk through the Big Dipper analogy.
Right. So walk outside and look up at the night sky tonight. What do you actually see?
A bunch of glowing dots, absolute chaos, just random points of light.
James calls that crude reality, the that. It's just there. It has no intrinsic labels. But human beings look at it and say, oh, look, those 7 stars form a dipper shape.
But the actual physical stars don't know they are a dipper.
Not at all.
They are light years apart from each other. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other physically.
Exactly. The dipper is a human addition to reality. We are the ones who draw the imaginary lines in the sky. We are the ones who count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The number 7 isn't floating in outer space.
No. The number 7 is a category that our minds apply to the chaos to make sense of it.
So reality itself is a collaboration.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Reality is a collaboration between the raw, chaotic stuff out there and the what.
The what being the definitions and categories we humans bring to the table.
Right. And here is the really trippy part.
Lay it on me.
James says once we count those stars and name them, we project that newly minted truth backward in time.
What does that mean?
We say, those stars were always 7, even before humans existed.
Yes, retrospective truth. We project our current human understanding back into eternity.
We do it all the time. We say, the law of gravity was always true, even millions of years before Isaac Newton formulated the math for it.
And James disagrees with that.
James says that is a fine way to speak practically, but philosophically, we have to realize that until Newton, that specific truth wasn't active. It wasn't working in human minds.
So we essentially man-made the truth of gravity by extracting that pattern from the chaos of our experience.
Yes. It challenges that traditional idea of an absolute mind that has all the answers pre-written in a cosmic book.
It puts the responsibility entirely on us.
We are carving out the statues of truth from the raw block of marble that is reality.
And that implies that the world isn't finished. It's still in the making.
Constantly in the making.
Which brings us to the villains of our story, or at least the intellectual sparring partners, the anti-pragmatists.
The guys in the other corner of the boxing ring.
Right. James spends a huge portion of the meaning of truth just responding to these guys directly. Who were they and what was their main beef with him?
Well, you have prominent figures like Bertrand Russell, Professor Pratt, and Hawtrey.
These were the heavyweights.
They were logicians and rationalists, and they really, truly hated this idea that truth was malleable, or that it was somehow dependent on human verification. They felt James was making the solid world subjective and squishy.
Let's look at Professor Pratt's argument. He came up with something called the as formula.
Right. Pratt tried to pin James down with a very simple definition. He argued that truth is just common sense. He said, truth is simply that the object is as the idea thinks it.
That does sound pretty common sense. My idea is the cup is red. The object is the physical cup. If the physical cup is red, my idea is true. It is as I think it.
Right.
Why did James hate that definition so much?
Because James says, hold on a second. That tiny little word as is doing a huge amount of heavy lifting.
It's hiding the mystery.
Exactly. He calls it a lazy definition. He asks Pratt, what does as actually consist of in the real world?
It consists of being the exact same.
But we just established with the tiger that an idea in your head can't be the same as a physical object. A thought isn't a ceramic cup.
Right.
So James argues that the word as really just means leads to. To say the object is as the idea thinks, it really just means the idea leads you successfully to the object.
He uses a really weird made-up word here to prove his point. Squirrel.
Yes, squirrel, spelled S-K-R-K-R-K-L.
It sounds like the noise a strangled parrot would make.
It does. James says, suppose I stand up and utter the word squirrel and I boldly claim it's a true idea. Is it true or false?
It's gibberish. It's neither.
Exactly. It has no context. It has no path. It doesn't lead anywhere in human experience. For squirrel to become a true idea, it would have to lead me to an actual object that society agrees to call a squirrel.
Without that path, without that verification process, it's not true or false. It's just meaningless noise in the air.
So truth fundamentally requires a context. It requires a path to walk.
Which leads us to the biggest objection of all, the one that Bertrand Russell loved to hammer on over and over, the existence of Julius Caesar.
Ah, yes. The facts of the past argument.
I can hear Russell's objection now. He says, James, you say truth is what works right now. You say truth is current satisfaction and current verification.
Right.
But Julius Caesar lived 2,000 years ago. His historical existence doesn't depend on my current feelings today.
Precisely. Russell would argue Caesar is dead. That is a hard fact.
Wow.
Even if every single human being died tomorrow and no one was left to verify anything, it would still be objectively true that Caesar died.
They accuse James of making history subjective to the present moment.
How did James defend himself against that? Because I have to admit that seems like a really strong point. If truth disappears when we stop looking at it, that feels like the world isn't real. James defends himself by doubling down on the concept of the path. He says, how do we actually know Caesar existed? We don't have a magical time machine.
We know it because of chain of intermediaries.
Exactly. History books, marble statues, old Roman coins.
Written accounts passed down.
Right. The truth of Caesar is that our current belief in him leads us into perfectly satisfactory relations with all those artifacts. If we believe Caesar existed, the history books in the library make perfect sense.
The ruins in Rome make sense.
The belief works seamlessly in our current cognitive world.
So he's saying that the statement Caesar existed is true because the effects of Caesar are still rippling through our world right now, and our belief successfully catches those ripples.
Yes. He calls it a one-to-one relation. Imagine a universe with only you and a dead Caesar from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But in this universe, there are no history books. No memories, no ruins, no effects whatsoever.
Just me and the fact that he died.
In that universe, James says the statement Caesar existed would be meaningless. It wouldn't connect your mind to anything in your experience. Truth requires that physical chain of linkage.
It's the ambulation again, the walking. We have to be able to walk from our present idea back to the past fact. And the history books are the stepping stones we walk on.
Exactly. And this leads right back to that major distinction between saltatory and ambulatory relations that we touched on earlier.
Let's clarify that with one more analogy from the text. The bedroom and the library.
Okay, picture a standard two-story house.
Got it.
Suppose you are standing in the library on the ground floor. The bedroom is upstairs.
Right above me.
James asks a seemingly obvious question. Is the bedroom above the library?
Yes, of course it is.
But why? Is it because there is some abstract, invisible, metaphysical force called aboveness holding the two rooms together?
No, it's above the library because if I walk out the library door, go up the wooden stairs and turn left, I physically get there.
Bingo. Aboveness is a matter of concrete experience. It's a matter of moving a human body through physical space.
It's an action.
Relations like above, before, after. Knowing these are experiences. They're not magic glue holding the universe together. They are the literal paths we walk.
So the rationalists want this magic glue. They want aboveness to be a pure cosmic principle.
And James says aboveness is just the potential to walk up the stairs.
And so extending that, truth is just the potential to walk from the idea to the fact.
Correct. It demystifies the whole thing.
This brings us to the so. What segment of our deep dive, why does all this 100-year-old philosophical bickering matter to you listening today? Why should we care about the difference between jumping and walking?
It matters deeply because it changes how we see the universe and, more importantly, our place in it. This is the absolute core of radical empiricism.
Radical empiricism.
Yeah.
Which still sounds like a punk rock band to me.
It is a bit punk rock for academic philosophy. It completely challenges the idea that we need some transcendent soul or absolute mind or even God to glue the disjointed universe together.
Right.
James is saying that relations are real, experienceable parts of life. The and, the with, the next to these transitions are just as real as the physical things themselves.
The universe glues itself together through these experiential transitions.
Yes.
And that empowers us, doesn't it, as human beings?
Enormously. It presents what he calls a melioristic universe.
Melioristic meaning, capable of being improved.
Yes. The world isn't a finished product. It isn't a static copy of an internal, unchangeable blueprint. It is currently in the making.
It's clay, not stone.
Our beliefs matter because they act on the world. If I believe the world can be better, that belief acts as a catalyst to actually make it better.
Like the quote from earlier, the true is the expedient in the way of our thinking. If believing in justice helps us physically create justice in society, then that belief becomes true.
Exactly. We are not just passive spectators sitting in a theater watching a movie that was filmed eternity ago.
We are actors on the stage.
We are improvising the script as we go. We are active collaborators in the creation of truth.
That is incredibly inspiring, but also, honestly, a little terrifying.
How so?
Well, it means we can create truths that are highly destructive, too.
Which is exactly why James constantly emphasizes that truth must agree with reality. You can't just believe you can fly and then go jump off a cliff.
Because the cash value of that belief is a broken leg. Or worse.
Right. Reality pushes back. Hard. The collaboration requires us to respect the raw material of the world while we creatively shape the what.
Okay. I think we have earned a little trip into the Twilight Zone. It is time for our thought experiment segment.
Just a quick disclaimer to you listening. These are outlandish scenarios inspired by James's work, meant to test the extreme limits of these ideas. They are for entertainment and educational exploration only.
Perfect. Thought experiment number 1, the lucky delusion, or the placebo reality.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine a man, let's call him Arthur. Arthur believes with absolute, unshakable conviction that he has an invisible guardian angel. Let's name the angel Steve.
Steve the angel. Okay, I'm with you.
Now, Steve never appears. Steve never physically moves a coffee cup. He never catches Arthur when he falls. Steve is entirely undetectable by any scientific instrument.
So physically absent.
Completely.
Yeah.
However, because Arthur believes in Steve so strongly, Arthur's incredibly confident. He takes bold risks in business that pay off massively.
Okay.
He is incredibly kind to others because he thinks Steve is always watching him. He lives a deeply happy, highly successful, morally upright life entirely because of this belief.
So the cash value of the belief in Steve is overwhelmingly positive. It works.
Right. The check clears every single time Arthur goes to the bank of life.
The question is, according to James's pragmatism, is the existence of Steve true?
Oh, man, that's tough. Physically, scientifically, Steve isn't there. He's a figment. But pragmatically, the idea of Steve is doing some serious heavy lifting in the real world.
James might actually argue that within the enclosed sphere of Arthur's personal experience, the idea is true because it leads to perfectly satisfactory relations with the world. It successfully navigates him through life.
But isn't it just a lie? A useful lie?
A traditional rationalist would say, yes, it is objectively false. But a pragmatist might say, if the universe behaves as if Steve exists for Arthur, and the practical results are entirely good, what is the practical difference between Steve actually existing and Arthur just believing he exists?
The difference is, well, I guess for Arthur, internally, there is no difference. Until, maybe, he jumps off a burning building expecting Steve to physically catch him in midair.
Exactly. That would be the harsh moment of physical verification where the internal belief clashes with objective reality.
That's where the broken leg comes in.
Right. But as long as Arthur keeps his risks within the normal realm of human luck and confidence, the pragmatic truth holds up. It really tests the limit of psychological satisfaction versus objective physical fact.
All right, let's get even weirder. Thought experiment number 2. The frozen cosmos.
I like the sound of this one.
Imagine the entire universe suddenly freezes in time. Absolute zero motion.
Like pausing a movie.
Exactly. No atoms moving, no planets spinning, no neurons firing in any brain. Time just stops completely.
Okay.
But just a millisecond before the freeze, you had a specific thought in your head. I am about to drink this coffee.
Okay, so I'm frozen forever with that specific thought hovering in my consciousness.
Yes. The question is, Is that thought true?
Well, I was about to drink it. It was my genuine intention.
But you never will drink it. The process of verification, the physical ambulation of lifting your hand, moving the mug to your mouth, tasting the liquid, is eternally halted. James says truth is a process of verification. It is something that literally happens over time. If the process is physically impossible to complete, does the truth cease to exist?
If truth is fundamentally a verb, an action, and the universe is now just a still image, then yeah, maybe truth vanishes completely. It just becomes a static, meaningless arrangement of atoms.
It totally challenges the idea of virtual knowledge we talked about.
Yep.
We said earlier that we bank on the fact that we could go to India to see the tigers.
Right, the credit system.
But if the universe freezes, we literally can't go to India. Does the tiger in India cease to be a truth for us in that frozen state?
That hurts my brain a little. It suggests that truth fundamentally depends on the flow of time. Without time, there is no action, and without action, there is no truth.
Which fits perfectly with James's dynamic view, doesn't it? Truth is a living, breathing thing. Kill the movement of the universe, and you kill the truth.
That is profound.
Wow. Okay, let's try to wrap this up before we accidentally freeze the universe ourselves.
Good idea. So, to recap our deep dive today, we started with the radical idea that truth isn't a static copy of reality sitting in a vault. It's a dynamic, ongoing process.
It's not a magic jump across the void. It's a physical walk.
Yeah.
It's ambulation. We have to verify our ideas through concrete experience.
And we learned that we are all collaborators. We carve the constellations out of the cosmic chaos. We use our beliefs to navigate and literally shape the future.
Here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on before we go.
Let's hear it.
James suggests that we are co-creators of truth, which means if we stop believing in certain possibilities, like the possibility of positive social change or world peace, do those truths cease to be possible?
Right. If you don't believe it, you won't act on it.
Exactly. So are we actively killing truths by refusing to verify them?
That is a heavy question.
If I absolutely refuse to believe I can run a marathon, I will never train for it and I will never run it. The truth of the statement, I can run a marathon, literally dies because I didn't give it the cash value of my action.
That is the ultimate takeaway from James. Truth requires us. It requires our human faith and our physical action to become real. We're not just passively uncovering a pre-written script. We are actively writing it with our lives.
On that note, go out there and make some truth happen today.
Thank you for listening to Talk Treatises.
See you next time.